I want to go across to Maruk as she breaks down the strengths and weaknesses of the principal candidates in the fray in the big fight for New Delhi. Maruk.
Rahul, I must tell you that I enjoyed that smile of Dr. Harshvardhan. And clearly, Kejriwal since yesterday and the Aam Aadmi Party have been talking about how some members have been, there's been an attempt made by the BJP to poach. And as we're playing out the strengths and weaknesses of the three main characters, the three protagonists, as one would call in the Delhi elections, we're talking about Dr. Harshvardhan, we're talking about Sheila Dikshit, of course, the three-time Chief Minister, and we're also talking about Arvind Kejriwal. But the question I want to pose to Nalini Singh, contender, spoiler, kingmaker, what would you call Aam Aadmi Party and Arvind Kejriwal?
Game changer of politics in India, in a way. This is to say that if they do get the, say 15–20% vote, it's already a great alert for the other parties to say that there is another kind of politics that the young and many middle-class people and others in the JJ colonies, unauthorized, etc., are wanting. So whether Aam Aadmi Party wins seats or not is another matter, which is a matter of politics and you know, going forward and making a party stable. But I think what's really happened is that when you look at what you know, how people are responding to a party that says that honesty and transparency is our these are the two mantras we have, and whether they have it or not is you know, right, the future will tell. But the fact that people are responding to it means that they are tired of old politics, and I think this is an alert and an alarm bell for the Congress more than anybody else, because Congress seems to be stuck in the 1970s or even before that. Okay. This whole thing that we talked about, you know, we will give you, we are the Mai-Baap. Today they must realize, the Congress party, that the Indian voter, especially the poor voter, doesn't want just to make do. He wants to make it. And this is the thing that Kejriwal and Aam Aadmi Party seem to be saying to them, that, you know, transparency will make you make it. What I'm saying is not make do, but make it. Okay. Has the Congress understood that?
Okay, let's just go back to that graphics that we were playing out for you. The strengths and weaknesses of these three characters, the three protagonists of the Delhi elections, starting with Sheila Dikshit. Of course, her development tag has been one of the biggest strengths as far as Sheila Dikshit is concerned. She has been, through the three terms, looked at as the one who has brought development to the fore. Her weaknesses perhaps have been missing that connect with the people. That is the one big thing that many have looked at, and especially in the last term, the taint of corruption that Sheila Dikshit has been unable to shake off. Then, of course, the next one that we are looking at is Dr. Harshvardhan. He's the one man who has been suddenly come into the fore, as Rahul was just talking to him, the BJP's chief ministerial candidate. His one thing that has been clearly going in favor as far as in the direct contest with the Congress party is concerned is his clean image. And finally, we look at Arvind Kejriwal, who's come with this completely pro-people, anti-corruption agenda. He's changed politics, as Nalini Singh was saying. He's brought in a different political force to the front. Sadanand, do you think that the Aam Aadmi Party is going to split the incumbency vote?
Yeah, I think the most significant aspect of the Aam Aadmi Party really is that, as Nalini was saying, it begins to change the grammar of politics, at least in urban India. I think the best possible outcome, however, would be an Aam Aadmi Party that does reasonably well, gets into double digits, but does not take power. Because in terms of their policy promises, it's half-baked. It's got a lot of the 1970s style of populism, free power, free water, and that sort of thing. So in terms of their policy, they're not really ready for power. But in terms of what they symbolize, hope, a battle against corruption and so on, I think it's a very positive development if they get some seats.
Okay, just look at the key states, the key constituencies in New Delhi that we are looking at. Starting with New Delhi. This, of course, is the prime constituency where Sheila Dikshit is up against Arvind Kejriwal. There are many saying that this perhaps will be the critical contest in the Delhi elections, the triangular contest that we are talking about. That's the first one, the main constituency that perhaps everybody would be looking at. The second one that we are talking about is Krishnanagar, where Dr. Harshvardhan, of course, the chief ministerial candidate, candidate of the BJP. R.K. Puram has clearly been in the forefront, especially after December 16th and the Nirbhaya case. Interestingly, Shazia Ilmi of the Aam Aadmi Party has taken on cudgels against the Congress and BJP there. That's going to be an interesting one. Also, we're looking at Parparganj, which is going to be significant for both the Congress as well as the BJP. The Aam Aadmi Party will be interesting to see the kind of vote share they get there. And finally, we have Ballimara as well, which is going to be an interesting constituency to watch out. Javed.
Well, indeed, it will, and all eyes will be on Sheila Dikshit's constituency. She's won it 3 times, but now we are told that she's in real danger, and this reflects the Aam Aadmi Party's all-or-nothing approach. Arvind Kejriwal has decided to go for the juggler. If he can cause an upset, then that will be the upset of these elections. All 5 states all the states that are going to the polls, because if he can upset Sheila Dikshit there, then I mean this will be the worst wound that Congress Party could have suffered. Not just losing. If they go on to lose the elections, of course that will be a big loss. But if Sheila Dikshit, for one reason or the other, loses to Arvind Kejriwal from this seat, then it will be really bad news for both Sheila Dikshit as well as the Congress Party.
And that the Congress Party is fearing. So Rahul, clearly as far as the Delhi election is concerned, that's one state perhaps that the Congress will not want to lose in the final counting day as far as the 4 states are concerned.
People would have thought, Vir Sanghvi, that it's impossible for Sheila Dikshit to lose to anyone in New Delhi. For Kejriwal to have been able to put up that sort of a fight, what's at stake here symbolically in terms of the possibility of Sheila Dikshit losing to Kejriwal?
I think if Sheila Dikshit loses to Kejriwal, the parallels will be with Indira Gandhi losing to Raj Narayan in 1977. But I think Sheila Dikshit has miscalculated. When Kejriwal started out, it was easy to dismiss him as a TV politician, the choice of the middle classes, and to some extent that's true. All the middle class people I've met say they voted for the Aam Aadmi Party. But he's also expanded his base. He's gone to people from outside, migrants to the city, people at the poorer ends of our society, people at the margins of our society, traditional Congress voters, and he's convinced them, perhaps using MyBap policies as people have said, but he certainly convinced them that he can deliver a much better deal for them than Sheila can. If you look at your exit poll and you look at the results, almost all the votes he's gone are votes that Sheila Dikshit should have got. Sheila Dikshit is the choice of people like us in living rooms. Was that such a decent lady, perfect chief minister? Well, no, they're not saying that any longer. People at the edges of our society said she's somebody who understands migrants, understands what's on. Well, they're not saying that any longer. The BJP's traditional hardcore shopkeeper, banya, Punjabi base doesn't seem to have been touched by Kejriwal. Its figures seem pretty much the same election to election. It's Sheila Dikshit who's miscalculated, and she may well pay the price.
Congress in that sense done in by their arrogance, because they believed he's only a TV phenomena, not giving him credit for actually being able to build this party in record time. Professor Bhalla.
But you know, there's the other side also. You know, we keep harping on, and the commentators as well said that, listen, Delhi has been delivered solid growth for 15 years. People should be happy. Delhi has been transformed, etc., as you said. Well, we have had elections, you know. In 98, we had elections. You get rewarded in 2003. You get rewarded in 2008 for what you did before. Now, the question comes in, what do you do in the last? What have you done for me lately? And in terms of what have you done for me lately, the question is, the answer is not much. That is what is hurting Sheila Dikshit. If Delhi had, if growth of Delhi, if the performance of the government had been good in the last 5 years, then you could say, listen, people should vote her back. But it is the last 5 years, not the last 15 years.
That's a very important point. No, so don't let what Sheila Dikshit did 5 or 10 years ago judge what you think of her. It's what's happened in the last 3 years that's determining whether or not people vote. That's Professor Surjeet Bhalla's theory. I want to go across to Ankit Tyagi. He's joined by poet, politician Kumar Vishwas. Ankit, is the Aam Aadmi Party that you track so closely confident that they will be able to get to 31, which is what the best exit poll for them is projecting, or are they reconciled to the fact that they might end up as number 2, which again would be a very commendable performance for a new party? What's the mood at the AAP headquarters?
Rahul, Rahul, the mood right now is very upbeat. Aam Aadmi Party is hoping that they will be able to spring up. They are the spanner in the works, and they would be able to spring up a surprise here. The cadre here has been, a lot of people has been gathering here at their main office in Connaught Place. I have Dr. Kumar Vishwas with me. Kumar, my first question would be, if Arvind Kejriwal wins New Delhi, and overall your performance is not as good as you are expecting, will that compensate? Will that be the bigger thing than the Aam Aadmi Party making the government or being the single largest party?
मुझे लगता है कि अभी हमें 2 घंटे 3 घंटे प्रतीक्षा करनी चाहिए। और दूसरी बात यह है कि हमने चुनाव इसलिए नहीं लड़ा था कि हमारी सरकार किसकी बनेगी, अरविंद जीतेंगे या हारेंगे। इस देश में सुविधाजनक राजनीति की जो परंपरा हो गई थी कि आप जीत जाइए, आप रायबरेली जीत जाइए, हम कन्नौज से बहू को जिता देंगे। हमने सुविधाजनक परंपरा को तोड़ा। भ्रष्टाचार की प्रतीक बनी शीला दीक्षित के सामने हमने अपने सबसे विश्वसनीय और सबसे कद्दावर नेता को लड़ाया। आप भी जानते हैं कि जिस समय हमने डिसीजन किया था, सारे चैनल्स पर ये चल रहा था कि अरविंद केजरीवाल एक सुसाइडल अटेम्प्ट कर रहे हैं पॉलिटिक्स में एंट्री करते हैं।
How confident are you today? The counting has started. How many seats are you giving yourself?
नहीं, देखिए, ये तो उन मतदाताओं को अपमान करना होगा जिनकी अभी गणना होनी है। लेकिन मैं ये कह रहा हूं कि आज भारतीय राजनीति का एक नया सूर्योदय हो रहा है। और कल से मैं चैनल्स पे देख रहा हूं जो पैनलिस्ट हैं उनके स्वर बदल गए हैं। वो अब ये नहीं कह रहे अरुण जेटली की तरह कि एक सीट भी आ जाए तो बहुत मानेंगे, या वो शीला दीक्षित की तरह ये नहीं कह रहे कि ये तो मानसून पेस्ट हैं। अब वो ये कहने लगे हैं कि एक राजनीतिक शुरुआत हुई है, और मुझे लगता है आने वाले 10-15 साल का राजनीतिक भविष्य आज शाम तक तय हो जाएगा।
Thank you so much. Kumar Vishwas are there, although they are very optimistic right now as far as they are concerned.
I was wondering if the poet balladeer had prepared something for this victory, but I guess there's so many people around him, he's just been whisked away. But I want Shiv Viswanathan to take our viewers through your sense of whether the Aam Aadmi Party as a political phenomena is here to stay, or will they just wither away? Because if they don't form the government today, you'll have about 20-25% of Delhi thinking, I voted for the Aam Aadmi Party and my vote got wasted.
See, I think there's a bit of myth about voting. Because I think there are two kinds of votes, voting at the ballot and voting in the drawing rooms, or at the margins as you call it. Those things don't add up in the same way. I think the Aam Aadmi Party wins the mathematics of emotions, not the mathematics of the ballot. The second thing, I've noticed a slight sense of piety in the thing. You know, as marginal protest, it's fine. But you know, if they were my next door neighbors, I'd go slightly crackers. There is something very conventional, very middle class, very Jesuitical about them. And that worries me, because I don't hear policy. I don't hear governance. I understand.
No, but they're a moral force. No, they're a moral pressure. The fact that Vijay Goyal is out and Harshvardhan's been brought in is because of their moral pressure.
Please, Vijay Goyal was my classmate at Delhi School of Economics. I'm not recommending him. Let's be very clear about that. But I think there's something more important. I think a moral force which does not translate itself into institution building is a very different thing. Can the Aam Aadmi Party even transform one municipal office? That is the question I want to ask.
I want to add to something what Shiv is saying, and we should pitch in on this, because we work together on the work together on polls on VP Singh's campaign in 1989. He reminds me a lot of VP Singh. And VP Singh was an institution destroyer, and basically was a failed prime minister. And he had the same moral conviction, the same authoritarian moral conviction that Kejriwal carries. And that's what I think offends a lot of people. Even
that's what attracts a lot of people at a time when morals have become so loose. Here's someone who's saying that taking bribes, taking alcohol, giving cash is not okay. Tavleen Singh, he's holding Indian politicians accountable to a higher standard of morality. Just one by one. Tavleen Singh.
I don't think that he is. I think that if he was the leader of the moral rearmament movement, it would be one thing. This is politics, right? And when you come into politics, you've got to tell me what you're going to do to be able to provide drinking water in the city of Delhi. What are you going to do to improve?
But he's cleaning up politics.
He is not.
He is cleaning up politics, but you're showing that politicians are much more careful than they would have been.
It's a myth that he's managed very successfully to create with the help of people like you.
No, because there are 25, let's figure out 20 to 30% people who believe just the same way. Too much cynicism.
But Rahul, we have seen on television how their candidates have accepted money for doing all kinds of odd deeds.
Where the labels were different from what was said. That's what you would like people to believe.
And today, they want to point fingers. In the morning also their leaders were saying, we've been offered some eorments to support them. There is absolutely no proof. And their MLA candidates were on television accepting cash, and then they have this temerity.
Okay, Delhi is a big issue.
I think they are, in fact, a party like Aam Aadmi Party would actually do much greater harm, and they are actually a bubble, and you will see that burst today. And I'll be back with you in the evening.
You've proven wrong in the past. With the sort of tenacity he has, he might prove them wrong again. Vir Sanghvi.
Can I just comment on what Surjeet said? I mean, I accept the parallel with VP Singh. In many ways, Kejriwal is VP Singh with more hair. But there is this danger always when you occupy this kind of position that I'm more moral than you, I'm cleaning up everything. That for a year, you're seen as VP Singh was, as this great, wonderful Mr. Clean. After a year, you're seen as the cool sneak, the hypocrite, the humble, the self-righteous prig. I think Kejriwal has to be very careful about that.
Well, Kejriwal has been written off many times in the past.
Actually, it wasn't a year. It was 6-8 months later in the assembly elections.
It all collapsed.
It all collapsed.
So Kejriwal has been written off in the past. He's proven his critics wrong. Can he do so again? I need to head into a break because after that, Chief Election Commissioner V.S. Sampath will be joining us. So we'll go across live to a man who I believe is one of the heroes of this election, the Chief Election Commissioner. There he is. He'll be with us.